Welcome back to the Watertown Oswego Safety Series with Kurt Callahan, Callahan Consulting Associates. This is one of a long series that we have already put on and plan to continue. Today, Kurt's going to talk to you about DOT requirements, something that you probably should be aware of. So Kurt, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you, John. Thank you, Liz. This is on behalf of the Small Business Development Center, Oswego Watertown office, continuing series. And what we're going to focus on is small business and DOT, Department of Transportation. And over again, I hear a lot of the reasoning of why DOT doesn't apply to my business because. And we're going to talk about some of these legends, urban legends, some falsities. We're also going to talk about the financial costs by believing something you were told or something you read on a bathroom wall or on Facebook. What says it applies to me? Well, the 49 CFR 385.403 is the federal standard. Chapter 49 is DOT, and then the specific paragraphs. And you're required to obtain a US DOT number. I'm going to summarize all this stuff. I'll let you read it when you're having trouble sleeping sometime. But if you're using a vehicle or a trailer for hire, that means you're getting paid to do something. And the stuff in that trailer and the stuff in that vehicle is being used to facilitate what you're getting paid for. You are, once you reach a certain gross vehicle rated weight, commercial. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily you need a CDL. What it means is you will probably require a US DOT number. You will have to start doing things more professionally than what a lot of people are used to doing. As soon as you have a combined weight of over 10,001 pounds, or if it is 10,001 pounds, your vehicle, if it's being used for hired, is considered a commercial vehicle, which makes you, or whoever's operating it, a commercial driver. I'll explain the CDL part in just a minute. Also, if you're designed or being used to transport more than 8 people for compensation, primarily we look at, your limousines or van services, especially those who provide services at an airport. If you pick up a double fare and you suddenly have 8 people, you become DOT compliant. Or if you're designed to transport more than 15 people, all those are within the commercial realm. And we're going to talk about some very easy areas where you can get yourself in trouble. Interstate, if you're going between states, the federal regulation is law. But I will tell you that if you dig into New York State law, which is not easy to read, and I talk to the men and women in the New York State DOT office all the time. The New York State vehicle and traffic laws mirror the federal laws. The only caveat to that is if you get anywhere near New York City, it gets to be even more difficult to understand because they add their own restrictions, their own interpretations. There's ways to get waivers in New York City. I hear over and over again, well, New York State lets you do it as long as you stay in the state. Well, no, they don't. They mirror the federal laws. So we're going to talk about a few things there. Trade, traffic, transportation in the United States. If you're going between one state and leaving the state, that becomes interstate. If you're bouncing between the corners of Vermont and Pennsylvania, you're still entering another state and things become very sticky wicket. If you do any of the things we've just discussed, a vehicle that's 10,001 pounds interstate for commerce, you must have a DOT number. So you have to be registered through the DOT site. You must post it, and they tell you how big it has to be posted. There's also a requirement to have your company name, its address posted. And the driver as a minimum, must have a DOT medical and a medical card, okay? That's where a lot of people are kind of hanging out. A lot of people have DOT numbers, and they're pulling behind them trailers and all sorts of other stuff. And I ask, well, does the driver have a medical? He doesn't need it. It's not a CDL vehicle. No, you're right. It's not a CDL vehicle, but it is a commercial vehicle. So as soon as you hit that, not having that DOT medical, the violations just get worse over and over again. So what is, gross vehicle rated weight? What is that? And everybody will always say, well, look, there's no way I'm ever going to carry what the vehicle's rated for. And you're probably right, hopefully. But all of the inspectors, all of the regulations are based on the gross vehicle rated weight, because you could have just dumped all your stuff off at the first stop and you're going back for a second stop. The inspector can't really tell if you had it then, they missed you. So they go by the rated weight, because worst case scenario, your next stop could be to fill up that trailer, fill up the truck, and now you're close or over your rated weight. That's found on the manufacturer data plates. Usually for pickup trucks, it's on the inside of the driver's door. It'll tell you what your tire pressure is and all that. And that's over here to the right. And then the example to the left is off of your standard garden tractor type trailer that you can get at Lowe's, Harbor Freight, or the tractor store. And if you notice, the trailer is a gross vehicle rated rate of 2990 pounds, which is down here. Then you add the truck, which is at 7100, and you get it at 10,090. Just the trailer and your standard pickup truck, full size, you're automatically in a commercial rating if you're doing it and you're getting paid for it, okay? So the people who habitually get in trouble, the folks doing landscaping, the folks doing lawns, your standard commercial, your standard construction folks who are doing paneling and whatever, they have the enclosed trailer, are driving around kind of oblivious to this because, hey, I'm using my personal truck. Yes, you are. And the trailer just carries our stuff around. Yes, it does. And even if you pull it and you drop it at the place where you're doing the business for a week, pulling it to and fro those areas is to support the business, supporting you, what you're getting paid for. And if you are caught, you are technically driving a commercial vehicle that meets the rating requirements. So those are the standards. Now, what you're going to hear over and over again, well, just register your truck at a lower weight or register the trailer at a lower weight, and you can avoid the 10,001 pounds. And that is correct. However, if you do that, what you are setting yourself up for is the inspectors will use gross vehicle rated weight or the actual weight or the registered weight, whichever is greater. Okay, so it doesn't make sense to register your vehicle for a greater weight. You definitely don't want to overpack your vehicle and the trailer because that's a complete different fine. So if you stick with the gross vehicle rated weight, that is the safest and smartest way to go. If you manipulate the system by, your gross vehicle weight is 8,500 pounds, but you register at 5,000 pounds, you are going to get caught, okay? And it's going to cost you. And that's what we're talking about in the second paragraph there. I hear it over and over again. Well, I'm going to get over this because I'm going to go and they ask me what the registered weight is, and I'm just going to tell them. If you have a specialty vehicle that will never, in standard use, meet the gross vehicle rated weight, you can apply to the manufacturer and have them give you a new data plate with the restriction written in it, okay? Very few of them are going to do that without a lot of research and a lot of coming to visit you and make sure what you're talking about. So there is a way to do it. There's a lot of paperwork and there's a lot of liability for the original manufacturer. Do you need a DOT number? This is out of the New York State Vehicle and Traffic Law and Federal Code. If you operate a truck for business purposes with a combined gross vehicle rate, or a truck and trailer as a combination, and it goes more than 10,001 pounds, you have rang the bell of, yes, I need a DOT number. Now, again, there's a lot of people driving around doing their thing. Will all of them get caught this week? No. And it's not just getting caught. You know, the police are busy. There's a lot of other things going on. If your folks have an accident, that is one of the first things they're going to look at, and they're going to start checking through things. It does not get better. It only gets worse, and it gets more and more expensive. Some of you have probably been using Landos or mini Landos, and there's an example posted here in the pictures. Basically what these are is it's a fifth wheel combination. Construction people, your landscaping folks that have to use bobcats or backhoes or tractors. The trailer is designed for heavier weight. Again, gross vehicle rated weight. These things are registered. These things are rated for a lot of weight. And the moment you start pulling it with your pickup for business, you have entered either a Class B or a Class A configuration, which requires you to have the appropriate CDL ratings. Again, I've seen a lot of people who look at me in shock when I bring this up because they've been doing it for a long time. And again, they got away with it. No harm, no foul. If there's an accident, they're really in a lot of trouble. If they get pulled over on the highway, or if they pull into a rest stop that there's DOT folks who know what they're looking for, they're in a lot of trouble also, because now they're driving outside of rating. So these things are important to know. As soon as you say business, as soon as you're starting to make money, you have to make sure you meet the requirements. And the requirements for Class B and the requirements for Class A are up there for your review. And again, if there's any questions, if there's any confusion, which it's a puddle of mud, I'll admit it, please reach out to me, reach out to the Small Business Development Center. Let us get you the answers. Let us give you some options before you get caught. Because once everything's gone wrong, there's not a lot we can do to help you. A lot of the violations and other things that people have found or have gotten hit with, I've been able to help them talk to the FMCSA, talk to DOT. This is what we're going to do. And the fines have gotten reduced, but that's on a case-by-case basis. And a lot of it has to do with how proactive you are on fixing your problems.
Kurt, quick question for you.
Yeah.
Is there a fee for DOT numbers?
I wish I had that answer for you. I'm pretty sure there is. It's all done online now. And yes, I think you have to pay a fee each year. Okay. And keeping that DOT number current becomes very important. There's a lot of things that feed off that DOT number. Your violations and your safety scores will put you in audit category. So every time one of your employees gets a speeding ticket, gets caught talking on their cell phone, it's tied to that number. So yes, I'm 90% sure there's a fee for it. There's some documentation that has to go with it. Like I said, they will tell you how big the numbers have to be, what else has to be posted. But again, if you're in business, there's some costs that come with being in business, and that's one of them.
Thank you.
Yep. And if you use your personal vehicle, let's say you have an enclosed trailer and you do hauling as a part-time business, but you also do hauling for your mother or your kids. If you put that DOT number and your business number on a magnetic sticky or something else that's removable, when you do it as a private person, you can pull those off and not have to worry about the DOT requirements. If you get pulled over and they open it up and it's got all your lawnmowers and all your construction stuff in there, and you can't give them a family member that you're going to do work for, you're in a world of hurt. So make sure you don't split that too much. But these are some of the fines, and some of them are really huge. $182,000 fine would put most of us out of business, and that's midway down there. I highlighted a few of them. Conducting operations during suspension or revocation. If you have an employee whose license got suspended and they choose not to tell you, and in the process of them doing business for you, they get caught, $22,957. That's another ouch. I'm going to go out on a limb and say your average employee probably can't write you a check for that. So that becomes your problem rather quickly. Trying to move this out of the way, I'm sorry. There's some record keeping issues. We're going to talk about record keeping in just a minute. Commercial driver's license violation. That's just a general catch-all. That will include if you don't have a DOT medical and you're in a pickup truck hauling a trailer. That's a $5,479 penalty. I'm sorry, I'm reading the old penalties. $5,591 penalty. Employer violations pertaining to knowingly allowing, authorized. So if you're letting somebody break the rules because, what are the chances we're going to get caught? That's another $5,591 fine. The commercial violations of commercial regulations, $10,663. I'm not saying that to slap you in the face with it. The question I hear is, what happens if we get caught? That's what happens when you get caught. The average business can't write a check for 11 grand just because. That comes out of something. That comes out of you. That comes out of your business. So it's better to know the rules and follow the rules than to hope for the best, in my opinion. These are the relevant codes. We talk about moving violations, failing to use a seatbelt, handheld, mobile phones. Any vehicle that's been bought recently should have Bluetooth. You should push your folks to use the Bluetooth. And you, as a business, as the office folk, if they're in the car, that's not the time to call them and walk them through how to file for their benefits or talk about 30-minute conversation that they have to focus on. Don't tempt them. Make sure that you send or you call them before they get started. Hey, when you get to your first rest stop, give me a call because we got to talk about X. That also has to do with people watching movies while they drive. It sounds ridiculous. It's happened over and over again. A lot of these long haul guys get bored. So watching a movie while they drive, really bad idea. And the same thing with the GPSs and everything else if they're not using their phone. Unauthorized passenger on board commercial vehicle, driving on the influence of drugs or intoxicating beverage is a problem. And once you enter the commercial sector, again, if you have an accident and it's a significant accident, they're required to give fluids. Okay, so if they had a really good time the night prior and it's early in the morning, they don't appear to be drunk, but they have residuals, it's going to turn up in those fluid samples. And that is a requirement by the the CFRs. Failing to conduct pre-trip inspection. There's going to be pre-trip and post-trip inspections that are required for the vehicle, and you have to show that you did them. And then if you do break down, if you stop on the side of a road, if you're one of those services, landscaping again is my example, you'll pass these trucks and trailers that are pulled off to the side while they mow the lawn. No warning triangles, no devices out. That is a requirement. That is a violation. And if you ever come around the corner and seen one of those gardening trailers staring you in the face, you probably know why that's a requirement. Written programs. What we're talking about is standard operating procedures, policies, procedures. Once you're commercial, once you're being paid to do something, there's a great deal of written programs that become auditable. You are required to develop a program where the drivers give you copies of their licenses, copies of roadside inspections. They're required by law to tell you if they get hit with a citation. That may be while they're at work, but if they're registered with you as a driver for hire, that also requires them to tell you out of work. So if they get a speeding ticket trying to get back to work on time after a long weekend, they are supposed to tell you about that speeding ticket because that goes into your CSA score. You need to have a policy penalizing drivers for speeding. Establish a policy that prohibits dispatchers from assigning drivers and loads that cannot be completed without speeding. Think about that for a minute. If you're having your folks load up this morning and they're expected to be in Buffalo an hour from now, are they going to speed? Yes. Okay. And it's incumbent on the management team to make sure they understand, okay, I'm calling the customer. I'm letting the customer know we're going to be late. I'm taking the hit. You guys take your time and get there safely. And there should be a policy that backs that up. Passengers should not be picked up. You know, you're not supposed to have your kids in a commercial vehicle. You're not supposed to pick up hitchhikers or somebody else along the way unless they're part of the program that you're being paid for. And those written programs and policies get even more in depth for your DOT files and your programs, which we're going to go into in just a minute. If it isn't documented, it doesn't exist. Okay. That whole thing, I'm from Missouri, show me, is the inspector's way of doing things. Well, this is what we do, blah, 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 blah. They don't care. Show me. So you in process and you give every driver a driver's eval when they come in, then you should have records and there should be something that says how you do it and why you're required to do it in your written programs. If you don't have that, if you're requiring on, you know, Tom or Sally to walk them through it because this is the way we do it, you're at a failure point, and that audit trail starts to get really murky for you.
Now, would this be pertinent to a one-man operation too, Kurt? You know, the one man guy that just does it on his own?
What it all goes by is the vehicle and the combination weights. And if that one guy is being paid for it, yes. So
just wanted to make sure, because I could probably see a lot of people out there going, oh, geez, I'm just only one guy.
Yep, just one guy. And you know what? If you're doing it for free, if you're going to your mother's place to mow the lawn, or if you're just that type of a really nice person that wants to mow the entire town's lawns for free, you're in there. The moment someone fills up your tank for gas, that's compensation. So you have to be very cautious. If you are doing it for hire, and I just said, hey, I'm going to give you a gas card, I'm going to give you a steward's card, bam, you are now a commercial person. And like I said before, you can split the hairs and ride the middle as long as you want. Eventually, you will get caught, or eventually you're going to get in an accident that might not even be your fault. You might get T-boned by a person having a heart attack. And in the process of it, the police officer is going to look at your trailer and look at your truck and say, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I was on my way to go do a job. Oh, really? Well, I need to see. And it starts going downhill from there. That answer the question?
Yes, it does, Kurt. Thank you.
So your driver's folder, the required qualifications folder for each of those drivers that are going to be operating those vehicles, which I believe I've proved a couple times previously are now commercial. You have to include, and those are all the different references. By the way, the Small Business Development Center has a template DOT standard operating procedure, and we have a template driver's folder. So if you're in this predicament and you're pulling your hair out right now as you listen to this, hey, reach out to us, okay? Get me over there and we'll change the names, we'll change the conditions, we'll set you up with the folders so you're well on your way to good health for these written programs. They exist. We have a grant which allows the Small Business Development Center to send me to help you. But the first step is knowing you have a problem. Second step is asking for help. So don't be afraid to ask. So the driver qualification file must include a driver's application for employment. Okay, and I have a sample of that form. We could put your company's name on it. Every employee, I don't care if it's your brother-in-law or you hired your father and he's been driving trucks for 300 years, they have to fill out that driver application and it has to be on file. You have to have a copy of the motor vehicle records for each state and the maintenance records for those vehicles. Certificate of a driver's road test. Guy comes to you with a CDLA. He's been driving for 20 years. That's awesome. Somebody has to get in the vehicle with him and make sure that he hasn't just had a CDLA for 20 years, that he can actually operate the vehicle. And that's a requirement for your company. Copy of the license needs to be in there. Each driver's license has to be in there and has to be verified, has to be current. Annual review of the driver's driving record. This usually requires an outside agency that you have to subscribe to. However, there's a lot of insurance companies out there that will do this for you. And if I know some people are members of volunteer fire departments, there is somebody who is monitoring your driver's license in those volunteer fire departments and other emergency agencies. It's one of those requirements. Even though they don't require a CDL because they're a government agency, they are required to keep track of your safe driving record. List of violations, and then there it is. You need to have that medical examiner's certificate, and it needs to be in the files. All those things need to be in a file. So if you have to call an employee in during a middle of an audit, you're already starting to dig your hole. All that stuff needs to be there, needs to be in an accessible folder, and needs to be protected for personal information exposure. The CDL holders, we're still talking about the medical certification. That needs to be current. Otherwise, it's the same as driving with a license that's not current. Okay, if the license is good and I haven't had time to go down and get my CDL medical done, doom on you. And everywhere you go around the country, every truck stop usually has a DOT medical person within walking distance. That's how ridiculous it is. So make sure you get that done. Not all states subscribe to the electronic medical verification. Off the top of my head, I think North Carolina, South Carolina are two states that do not. So if you get pulled over in those states that do not go with the digital, they're expecting you to pull out a paper copy of your DOT medical. And if you don't have it, you are driving illegally. And they will have you park the vehicle until you can show your medical card. And then you need to have the skill performance filed as well. That's usually completion of your CDL or the CDL license itself. This is all the regulations talking about. Even if you're not required to have a CDL license, you may be required to have a CDL medical. That's again going back to your pickup trucks and trailers for the most part. You need to go through a registered and certified medical examiner for DOT. If someone says they are, they should be able to provide that or point to a certificate or something on their wall. You need to have that driver's file for 3 years. At that time, you can remove the file, but even if an employee leaves, don't just hand them the folder. You need to keep that folder. You can give them a copy of it, but you have to at least show that that employee for 3 years after they've left was qualified. The annual review of your driver's record, list of certifications of any of the vehicle laws or ordinances. Again, that medical certificate. Any medical variants. Some guys will have CPAPs. Some guys or gals are required to have eyeglasses. All those things should be in their folder so that the management team knows what they're supposed to be doing and can catch things before they become a problem.
Once again, you're listening to Kurt Callahan, Callahan Consulting Associates, on behalf of the Watertown Oswego SBDC, and we're talking about DOT regulations.
All right, what else? What else is required? Drug testing. You're required to have an initial drug test. You're required to have a random program. Now, it gets a little hazy, like we talked about before, if you're a sole operator. Hey, it's just me. Okay, well, you have to make sure you randomly test yourself at least once a year. So, good news is you can just do it at your DOT physical. You know, just ask them for a drug test while you're there. Take that drug test, put it in the folder. Is it random? I'm one guy. If I don't know how to make it random for one guy, but the intent is that you can't prepare for the drug test. But again, as the sole owner and operator, showing that you're trying to do due diligence to stay within the wickets goes a long way. Inspection stops. If you are a commercial vehicle, and I've already given my examples of commercial vehicles, if you skip an inspection stop, it's not going to get good. They will come after you, and that inspection just went up about 3 times that it was before, and the violations are going to come. There is no way to avoid the violations at that point because you've already created one violation. Loose equipment, buckets, trash, shingles. You gotta push your folks that everything in the vehicle needs to be secure. One of those Lowe's buckets that you see in Lowe's all the time, I've seen those go through windshields. I've seen them, I've seen trash and shingles cause all sorts of damage to other people's vehicles, cause accidents. You, the company, become responsible for that accident. And it's not hard to track down the person who did it, to be honest with you. Nowadays, everybody's got a cell phone. A lot of people are actually recording while they're driving nowadays. You are going to be found. So teaching your folks how to secure equipment goes a long way. Periodic evaluations, you got to get in there and make sure that your best employees are also good drivers. There's a lot of people who do great work out there who don't have the attention span to drive. And it's up to you to figure that out and maybe make sure they understand, love you, man, but you have to be in the passenger seat. Let the other guy drive, okay? You got to have training records on file. You got to have the maintenance records for the vehicles. And there's a long list of what you need for the vehicle maintenance records, just like the driver training file. And some of them seem ridiculous, but they're not hard to do. Violation history. You need to have that violation history. You also need to have the company violation history. The FMCSA, once you get your DOT number, you can register through them, and you can look at your driving scores whenever you want. And you will also see where the violations are happening. Hazmat. Small businesses, we usually don't have the stuff that qualify as needing a hazmat license. But going back to the loose equipment, if you use propane tanks for those handheld torches or for whatever, the gas grill, because the guys are going for a job that's going to be overnight or a couple nights, that stuff has to be secured properly. Otherwise, it becomes a hazmat violation. Like we've talked about, even your small landscaping businesses, your small construction stuff usually requires a generator. Generator is either going to require gas or propane or something to run. So those containers have to be secured properly. If they're rolling around in the back of your enclosed trailer and they're found to be rolling around, that's a huge violation. All right, that is DOT in a nutshell.